It is 13 degrees outside, and overnight it was even colder. My husband spent so much time trying to warm up the greenhouse using a generator with a heater and all of these other things he tried, and eventually, early this morning at, maybe 2:30 in the morning, he just decided to bring them all in because he couldn't keep it warm enough for our poor little plants. So we've got plants there. We've got our hydroponic lettuce here. And you can see there's some snow out. And then lots of other places we've got plants stashed over in the living room. But he was up all night taking care of our plants.
Well, that's the last one. Hello, welcome back to Sweatin' Bullets Ranch. I'm Jamie. We recently had to move all the stuff out of the greenhouse, and now we're finally getting it put back in here. Let me tell you about the story of what happened. Well, as you know, this year we went away from the dense seed planting and we moved into planting straight into the 4-packs because we cut way back. We went from about 4,000 plants last year, and we're only doing about 1,000 this year. The dense seed planting worked great, but it kind of ran us into a bottleneck a little bit later on into the season when it was time to transplant all those dense seedlings into the bigger pots. So we wanted to avoid that, and so we went to planting straight into the 4-packs, which there are some problems with that, one of which is that it takes up a lot more room. If you watched our seed dense planting video last year, you'll know how many. It didn't take. I think there was 3,600 in that little bitty area that we showed you last year when we planted all those. And then we have a greenhouse is about probably getting close to half full with only 1,000 this year. So um, it takes a lot more space. Consequently, we have these plants now out in the greenhouse instead of in the house. And Missouri weather being what Missouri weather is, it's been fine. We've been cooking right along. You can see, we'll give you a tour here after a while, but you can see things are coming up and they're doing fine. But we had another cold snap, and it was going to get down to 10 degrees overnight. And unfortunately, the prior day it wasn't very sunny to warm all of the blocks and the water jugs up in here anyway. So we knew we had to do something. Our greenhouse is, because it's the acrylic panels, they're corrugated. It's kind of like cardboard except for it's clear, and it does have some insulation value. So overnight, with our solar or thermal battery of the water jugs in here, and the rock, and just the mass of everything in here, it stays about 10 degrees or so warmer, 10 to maybe 15 degrees warmer in here overnight compared to outside, which is fine. If it just dips down to the high 20s or whatever, it's not a problem. But with it being so cold and staying cold for a number of hours, I knew that it was going to be a real challenge. I thought we could mitigate that by having a small, like a bathroom type heater out here, and I knew I'd just have to run my generator overnight to power that because we don't have electricity out here. Anyway, so it's going to be so cold out here. Come out about 10 o'clock that night. It was still fairly warm out here. I'm going to say it was probably like 40 or so out here in the greenhouse. And started up the generator, turned the heater on, and it was holding fine. It was actually gaining a little bit. It was really slow because I stayed out here for about, I don't know, maybe an hour, and watched it to see how it was going to do. It seemed like it was doing okay. So went back in the house, and then about 3 o'clock in the morning, I got up and came back out here to check on, make sure the generator was still running, not run out of gas or anything. Just wanted to check on things. Come out here and I looked at the thermometer that's out here, and it said that it was 33 degrees and falling. So I struggled. We tried to get another heater out here, and running 2 heaters was more than the generator would do. And so I had tried a couple of other things, fought with that till like 4 o'clock in the morning, and finally accepted defeat and started hauling all of this into the house. And it was a good move, because it got cold in here. Everything would have frozen. Even though we had been putting, over the cold nights, we had been putting the humidity domes over there, which gains you another layer of protection for your plants. But it was going to be cold for it was going to be below freezing for it in here for a number of hours. So that's why you see me now hauling all this stuff back out to the greenhouse. That's the backstory, and why the whole greenhouse had to be emptied and now put back in there so that we could have our house back. While we're in here, let's take a look around. So we have this is a spinach plant. Put it down here so you can see. And we had some interest in our hydroponics video last year, And some people were really hung up on having to have this bucket, and even had some people say, well, gosh, we couldn't find square buckets. Will it still work? And well, sure, it'll work. This only reason for the square bucket is because two reasons. One, I could get those at the time, and I liked having the square. I thought the squares made better use of the space, rather than round, just so you could fit the number of buckets in there side by side. The uh, shape really makes no difference. And so to kind of prove that point, you don't have to have anything fancy. I took an empty coffee can here, cut a hole in the top that's the right size for this net cup, put our spinach start in there. We have the uh, solution in here, and I haven't even looked in here, but we're going to look in here and see how it's doing. You can see it's getting, this is our little spinach plant that we planted about a month ago. And spinach for us is very hard to propagate. We've had our best luck actually this year by putting them in a wet towel in a bag in the refrigerator, believe that or not. So, we planted the seed on about a month ago. Once it gets going and starts to go in the rock wool, then you can transplant it into the solution, and it should pick up growing a lot faster now. Here, I don't know if you can see this one. This one don't look too good. It looks like the cold may have gotten that one. We'll show you a different one over here that'll be easier to get to. I don't know. Cold may have gotten some of these. We're going to look at them. I don't know. Can you see those okay? So this is just some more of the hydroponic spinach, just like not spinach, it's lettuce. Just like we showed you in the video last year. It's a pretty simple, basic. This is the Kratky method of hydroponic. You start your seeds in this rock wool, put the cups in, you fill the solution up to the bottom of the cups, and the roots will go down into the solution, uptake the solution. Once you mix this stuff up and put these net cups in here, there's nothing else to do except for just come out every day and watch how much it's grown. Growed? Did I say growed? Grown. Some of the flats that we're growing here. This is basil. We had people asking for herbs last year, so we're gonna do a few herbs this year. Now these are all mixed up. I had them in order, but in the moves they all got mixed up, so we're just going to have to kind of look at the tags and see. This is cabbage. I think I actually showed you some of the cabbage in a video earlier this year. This looks like more cabbage. Nope, that's broccoli. It's hard for me to tell them apart. Maybe you guys can, but when they're that small I can't tell them apart. Here's some more cabbage. And this is interesting too. Let's show you this. I had a question the other day about, well, how often do I need to water these? And that's a great question that there is no answer to. You have to simply look at and see how much it needs. You can see the soil medium over here is dark. Obviously this is a wetter medium than this is. This is the same medium. And so for whatever reason, whether it's airflow, amount of sun, or whatever, these are drying out faster than those. So this will need to be watered. This is ready to be watered now. And those, I'll probably go ahead and put some water on them, but they're not as dry as these, obviously. So it's a great question, and it's a common question, but it's not one that we can give you an answer of saying, hey, put a quarter of a cup every day on it or something like that. It's not quite that simple. It's kind of like, I guess, when bread makers tell you they don't know how much flour it takes or whatever, for example, because there's too many variables, and this is kind of one of those things. So keep an eye on it. That's the fun anyway. You get to see it grow. So when you're out here looking at your stuff and seeing how they're doing, these are the Juliet peppers. I mean, not peppers, good grief. Juliet tomatoes. And the Better Boy tomatoes. I'm not seeing anything on that one yet. Amish paste tomatoes. Early girls, that's one of our favorites right there. That one didn't have anything planted in it. This one is oregano and coriander, cilantro. So we got, looks like there's one coming through right there. Here's one that's out already. So some of this stuff takes longer to germinate than others. You'll notice we do have, we'll show you, I know we got at least one tomato that's peeking out over here. But like for example, the peppers take longer to germinate than the tomatoes do. So if you plant them on the same day, you don't expect everything to just burst through all at once. Everything takes the right amount of time. And all that is programmed into the seeds already. These are going to be jalapeno peppers, Tam jalapenos. These are the German Johnson pinks. If you remember from last year, those are the ones that have the potato leaves. This is cauliflower. Looks like there's a few up there. I don't know if they got too cold. They're usually pretty cold hardy. That one looks pretty rough right there. I don't know if they're going to make it or not. And that is cauliflower. We had a couple of the orange sun pepper seeds from last year that we just planted in those. What we got here? We have Hungarian heart. This is an interesting experiment that we're doing here. We'll come back to that in just a minute. Actually, these are Mr. Stripey's. This is the super sauce tomato, and there I know we got that one at least. I don't see anything else popping through just yet, but any day. Banana peppers. Parsley. And there's another pepper. And bell pepper, California Wonder bell peppers. And we do have, so these and these two trays right here, along with another tray over there, are part of an experiment that we're doing. And that experiment is seed saving on non-heritage plants. So the thing that you need to look for if you're going to save seeds is make sure that it says heritage on it, and then you will get heritage. Anything that's been crossed, you will not get the same plant. A tomato's still going to bring forth tomatoes. A pepper is still going to be a pepper. You're not going to plant, obviously, a pepper seed and get an apple tree. So it will be a pepper, but it is not the same pepper that you got the seed from. And some of those may not even be viable. So that's just something that we're kind of experimenting with, because I told you before, we're not happy unless we're failing at something. So we like to try new things. And that's one thing we're kind of experimenting with this year, to see what we get out of those, some of those varieties that are not heritage varieties. So just to give you some specific examples, an early girl is a hybrid tomato. If you were to save seeds from an early girl tomato and plant them, they may or may not be viable. I don't know, because we haven't tried it. But if it did bring forth a tomato plant, that plant would not produce early girl tomatoes, because it is a hybrid that has two different parents. And so the genetics of that plant would be different from having those same two parents again. You'd get like a grandson instead of a sister or brother. So the opposite of that is the heritage, and the heritage is like, sticking with the tomatoes, if we use a Hungarian heart is a good example. Hungarian Heart or the Amish Paste, those are heritage tomatoes. If you save the seeds from a Amish Paste tomato or a Hungarian Heart tomato, when you plant that seed, you're going to get either an Amish Paste tomato or a Hungarian Heart tomato again. So that's the difference, and that would be something that would be fun to experiment with if that's something that interests you, to try it and see. One of the things about working on a farm, there's always an opportunity to improve, and as you're working and things are difficult, you think of new ideas. And while I was making numerous multiple trips to the house and back with the trays of plants, I thought of an idea that we've got this big old wagon and it only holds 3 because of the configuration of the trays. It only holds 3 trays. And so I thought, gosh, if I made something that fit across the top of this, I could use these stake pockets to hold it on there, and then have it where it should hold 8 trays up on top, to be able to save a lot of trips. So we may be working on that little project in another video in the future. Stay tuned and we'll see how that works out. Thanks for joining us this time at Sweatin' Bullets Ranch. We hope you'll come back and visit us soon. Until next time, God bless.